Why does criticism of the state generally focus on its internal flaws, leaving the state as such unquestioned? There's something in the nature of man, one argument goes, that screams out to be governed. Man is a creature who needs a master, a traditional bourgeois philosopher has said. Men are incurably egoistic, and if left alone, they would be engaged in a continual war with one another. Thus emerges the absolute necessity for a dominating authority. The insistence that the need for political power flows directly from the nature of man can be somewhat clarified by examining the classical bourgeois concept of freedom. This concept entails, first of all, that all men are born free. Freedom is a given. It's the essence of man. According to the bourgeoisie, however, man is first and foremost the individual man, with individual desires, with individual interests, and with individual freedom to pursue those desires and interests. His freedom is thus the freedom to express that individuality. Therefore, without some form of government, without some restraining force, the individual would be freed not merely to discover and create the means to fulfill his own needs and wishes. He would also be free to annihilate the freedom of his neighbor if that should satisfy his egoistic cravings. Let us assume for the moment that the purported function of the state, the protection of each individual from encroachments on the part of others, is its real function. Can we really penetrate the mystery of the state on this basis? Is it simply coincidental that the protected members of society are generally members of the wealthier classes, while precisely the opposite is true of those who render themselves enemies of the state? Is it accidental that jails and prisons in every capitalist country overflow with the poor? And in this country, it's a special grouping of the poor, black people, who are overrepresented as the people against whom society needs protection. No great philosophical enterprise is required in order to answer these questions. The fact is that some people simply need protection more than others because they happen to have more to protect. Black people have not been able to claim the right to be among the protected groups in society because the economic power which merits that protection is lacking. The same is true of the remainder of the have-nots in capitalist society. This rather elementary observation also explains the existence of natural adversaries of the state, for often enough theft is really the only way to ensure survival in the struggle for existence. The basic assumption of the bourgeois democratic state is that it is possible to modulate the strife on which capitalist society, is predicated. The mechanism of the state can give birth to a more or less harmonious society. Law and order is the watchword. Engels maintains, on the other hand, that the very existence of the state is proof that these antagonisms are irreconcilable. If this is true, then the unavoidable meaning of law and order is domination of one group in society by another, privilege and suppression of privilege, exploitation, racism, oppression. According to Engels, as the state arose from the need to keep class antagonisms in check, but also arose in the thick of the fight between the classes, it is normally the state of the most powerful economically ruling class, which by its means becomes also the politically ruling class, and so acquires new means of holding down and exploiting the oppressed classes. The state is thus the symptom of the disease which has thoroughly infected men's relations to one another, the cleavage into classes. In the bourgeois era, one class owns the means of producing the goods needed by society. The other class produces those goods by hiring out its labor.